Alrighty, ruin cuckoo. Wait, fuck. Did it take me all the? How far back did it take me? Is this back to? Shit. Alrighty, ruin cuckoo to you and all my nobody's not watching. Let's see. Does it? Is it gonna show me that these have not been looked at before? Nope, they have been. So maybe I get to keep my pictures, and as soon as I get to a certain point in the story, they'll look. Hopefully that's the case. Still no mail. Just curious. I could delete Monica right now. Okay, so yes, no, things have progressed. I could delete Monica right now. That's a. This is not why I came back. So I was watching my old thing and I was like, wow, you really want on about the Ents, and I actually like looked into it and stuff, and just real talk, like it just bothered me that I wasn't accurate. The Ents aren't the way I said or remembered, because again, it's been I don't know how long since I've read those books. The reality is the Ents. I only remembered part of the story and I didn't remember it right. Basically, the Ents were both created. They may be immortal. Um, I looked up like three different videos concerning it, and they all had similar but slightly different perspectives, but all of them seem to basically say the same basic thing, is that the male Ents and the female Ents, the Ent wives as they're known, which is sort of, you know, not great. That's sort of it's like they they had different purposes and they felt inclined towards different things and worshiped different. They were like more like this or that. The male Ents were like, oh, we're all about the big things, you know, the forests that are wild and untamed and strong, and trees that are big and such. And then the Ent wives were more about the meadows and the small things and fruit bearing trees, and more like actively cultivating and it being like, I don't know. So as a result, they were just naturally not exactly what I would call compatible from my perspective. That's not what everyone else said. And I just was like, oh, I don't remember that at all. But these people did a much deeper dive and did way more work on it. So I'm just going to quote, kind of not quote them, but sort of like reference them. Basically, the women did the Entwives did leave, and then they went to a place where they were all like together and had like a garden, and that's sort of what they did. And the guys were like, "Oh, yeah, that's all good." Well, you know, because the guys were more like, "Oh, well, we're gonna explore and like hang out and like make sure that the wild of the woods spreads," you know. And they were just more akin to wandering. That was just sort of how they were, whereas the that's just not so much how the women were. And they would visit from time to time, you know, on occasion. It was less about, like, I don't know where I got the whole, they just talk so much and they got mad that we didn't talk back. I don't know where I got that from. Maybe that was just my interpretation at the time. I don't remember. But that said, it was across the board. Sauron came by and was like, I'm doing a scorched earth policy. I gotta like kill everything in this area for my whole war that I'm doing at this point. Or was it Saruman? I forget. I get mixed those two up. Even though I just watched those, I just whatever. It was just like, look, and maybe it was to kill the Ent wives. Maybe it was not. They don't talk too much. No one really talked too much about their reproduction. Just that there would be no more Entlings because there were no wives. But it also seemed like the species itself was like nigh immortal. Like without being killed, they they will just persist. They can get old, and there is an effect that like, well, you know, an object in motion tends to stay in motion, you know. And if they get older and stop moving around, they can just literally become trees, like just They just become trees. Like maybe they choose to stay stasis solid, or maybe they just, you know, resign themselves to it. But regardless, that seems to be a thing that they can just become trees. It's also sort of insinuated that there's a possibility that new Ents can be created simply by having been trees. And they start to take on, they sort of fill in that spot. But that was sort of vague, just like the Entlings. Or Entings, I think they called them, rather than lings. Like small Ents that would be created. And they basically, the species just didn't feel like propagation and multiplying and being fruitful was a particularly important thing because there was enough of them and they basically didn't worry about dying. So like very few things were killing them and they just sort of did their thing and their purposes were varied. And that was the real problem is that the Entwives were and they went somewhere else and they ended up teaching like gardening and like agriculture and other stuff to other people. And they learned, like, the whole species learned the use of language from the elves because they were created about the same time. And the elves just, they're like, we like to talk to people. We want to talk to everything. We like education. We're all about that. We're like experience and stuff. And then the Ents were like, "Oh, this is awesome! Thank you for teaching us how to speak because we didn't come that wasn't default. But boy, you guys talk a lot. Maybe that's how I got with the thing. Um, but yeah, they were kind of annoyed by the elves. It's like, man, you guys just want to keep talking and talking, and it's like that's a lot. That's a lot to deal with. You're a lot. But at any rate, one day, the Ents came back to the place where the Entwives were supposed to be, and it was now called the brown area, the brown lands, where everything had been basically just burnt and fucked over. And they were like, "What happened?" And it's deliberately ambiguous and vague that nothing is explained. We don't know how. We know that Sauron did the thing. I think it's Sauron or Sauron. I forget. Sorry. Simple, super easy to mix those two up. And it was just like, it is what it is. Like, there's more history. Look it up about how the Ents exist, why they were created, all that stuff. That's all, like, really interesting. But basically, it's like, it's deliberately made inconclusive exactly if any of the uh, Entwives actually survive. They could have all been killed. They could have not. The Ent males, they look for them for a while, but after a while, it just, they keep getting not answers, and they keep not finding them. So at some point, they just look less, and it's sort of like they just, it's like, it's like in real life, real talk, statistically, men live longer when uh, they're married. Marriage is, marriage is helpful to men living longer, and women tend to still outlive men on average, married or not. But that's a thing. I think once those wives were taken out of the picture, there's a lot of those Ent men were just like, you know what? I don't care so much. I might just be a tree now. Like it just sort of came about more often. But part of that is just that's just how it is. But they were actually like a species created to protect the trees. The men specifically were like they're there. They're basically the Lorax. If the Lorax was Groot like on steroids, but really like slow. And The Ent wives were more like, I don't know, sort of like super steroided druids from D&D, like female druids. Like, nah, we're all about the trees, but like we're about nature, and more about like they seem to be like more about smaller versions, like less about like the trees will take care of themselves, dude. As long as they don't get cut down, they'll be fine. Like, it's about these little things. They need cultivation. They need help. They need growth. It's like this is life. Like that stuff's all sort of stagnant. Like it's not. It's still growing, but as long as it's alive, it's gonna do its own thing. Let's encourage and grow more. We want to make more new life rather than like protect the old life. And that seems to be like a reason why the Ents and the Ent wives had a divide. So I just felt like I had to share that because I thought that they like legit just like 86 is just fucking dipped out for a reason that I was not right about. And I just have to like I don't this is not an educational channel. This is not a channel for this is an 18 plus channel. Like I can't make that change, but I would if I could. And I just but I still like to I still like to offer out. I want to be accurate when I say stuff, and I'm not. I know a lot of times I forget to come back and do the thing, but I figured I would do it this time because I spent like a while like listening to these videos and being like, wow, I was not right, so I need to remedy that. um I'm gonna see what happens when I see what happens if I just get rid of just get rid of her now. Let's just see, just because that's something new. Nope, nope, can't do that. But I can delete it, right? Nope. Elevated access permissions are required to be... Well, I wonder if I just pissed her off. Anyway, I just felt like I had to put that there. Just I just had to share it. Also, I think their numbers changed around. I don't know. I could be wrong. I just felt like I had to come back and say this, even if I don't go too far into this, because it was just like, well, you're not right, like, you know, and some of this is backed up by each of them quoted. Like, I'm not going to go to the individual channels because I don't remember like I went through three. I was just like, let's just make sure we get a good spread, and they all basically said, oh, like they went deep into it and they understood the lore and like where they're coming from and what the Ents are and all that stuff. And they even like went into like some of the letters that Tolkien like did and how like they were very like people asked, because apparently the Ents are one of the things that a lot of people like me are like, but what happened there though? Like, isn't that's really sad, because it was really sad to hear Treebeard be like, we looked and it's like there's a lament and there's this like lost love, even like the just the confusion and the pain that sort of like, I don't know, it resonates, and I think that was the point. But it seems like Tolkien did not deliberately chose not to follow through, and like when they wrote things, like when people would ask and they replied, it was always basically in vagaries that like, I don't know, I haven't gotten that far yet. Like if they're all destroyed by Saruman, then maybe it's like, but I don't know. And then leaves like a couple breadcrumb trails where it's like, oh well, maybe there's a Entwife that lived in the Shire, and there's like some references to that where it's like, oh, my cousin saw something like that, one of the hobbits, you know, and it's like, and like the Shire and that general area is sort of like a special area for various reasons, and it's sort of the type of place that an Entwife would like. So maybe one fled there, but it's like it's very vague where it's like it could go either way. It's up to interpretation. I think that was on purpose. So I felt like I had to not redact what I said, but sort of clarify that I admit that I was wrong and that it's a little deeper than I saw because man, I don't remember when I read those. It's been forever. Like I read them a long time ago, and even then, there's so much in them, and they are so in depth. So I'm not sure where I got the whole like, oh, they got tired of us not listening to them thing. But yeah, I just felt like I had to remedy that. And I'm gonna go a little bit further into it just because I'm already here. I didn't like it's new game day. I was gonna go play another game, and I just needed a little time to sort of like mentally prepare myself to play a new game. And I didn't really feel like this was done yet. Oh shit! Why is it not the way it was? Which one's the most recent? Don't make me think. Don't make me think. Okay, that was it. Yeah, I can do that. Oh yeah, then I was gonna do poem. Poem time! That's why I wanted to stop. So I could do that, and I ended up just talking about Ends Forever. And I did want to actually get the achievement for getting everything right with Yuri if possible. So yeah, now we'll walk home, and that's where I think I actually ended it. Was we already did this, but oh wow, now Monica gets included. I think that's new. I don't think that was it between all four girls, because I don't think it was between all four girls. I'm not sure. I think this might be new. I should have read that out loud. Alright, I just need to make the most of my circumstances, and my good fortune will find me. I'm sure it starts with writing a poem tonight. Alright, since I have to, if I can, I'm gonna save, and I gotta do the thing, and I gotta find my notes real quick, but yeah, I'll be back. Pick words you think your favorite club member will like. And again, something might happen with whoever likes the poem most. Words. They're hard.